Watch this.
There could still be some Idaho Republicans clearing out of Coeur d'Alene after their convention over the weekend, but they didn't leave without making some changes. No, not in leadership, but in the party platform that could dictate what comes out of the State House next year. There are some changes expected in Nampa with what bus is bringing kids to school. Another example of a decreased budget and an increased bid means the end of a long-time transportation link. We are revisiting the history of one of downtown Boise's well-known corner blocks and what's going on there for the future. 2 more years. Well, that is at least the sentiment of the more than 600 delegates to the Idaho GOP convention this past weekend who believe the party has been well led this past 2 years under Chair Dorothy Moon and re-elected her to that same position. Nearly 150 votes separated Chair Moon from her challenger, Mary Souza, to run the state Republican Party into 2026. In fact, the election of the entire leadership team tended to lean toward the righter side of the spectrum, where some say they should be. But that's not all that was decided this weekend in Coeur d'Alene. The party also approved resolutions and changes to its platform. So let's start with the resolutions, which is a wish list of things that party members, at least those in attendance, stand behind or hope to forward for the near future. For example, along with the unequivocal support for Israel, protecting our electric grid, and wanting only citizens to vote in our elections on Election Day, and in person, by the way, members of the state GOP are directing the chair of the party to get a lawyer and sue the Secretary of State, Phil McGrain, for not enforcing their private club rules regarding party affiliation with regard to the closed primary elections. It's something they asked the secretary to do last year, but they were denied by Secretary McGrain, who made it clear his office and county clerk's office across the state, their duty only applies to state laws, not party rules. They're not under his jurisdiction, so he can't enforce those. So we'll see if they can obtain counsel and file a lawsuit for that. As for the party platform, it's also worth noting this is just a list of priorities for the party, not really binding law or anything. But according to the newly adopted forward of that party platform, well, it's how Republicans, elected officials, will be judged, measured, and held accountable for the next 2 years. A forward, by the way, penned by Brandon Durst, whose titles include former Democratic state representative and senator, failed superintendent of West Bonner County School District, and failed candidate for Boise School District trustee, state superintendent, and most recently, Ada County commissioner. The platform committee, consisting of 43 of the 51 GOP delegates, made 11 changes to the party platform since the last one was adopted in 2022. Most didn't shake a lot of earth, but they did lay down a few new planks. For example, they oppose ranked choice voting in any form. They oppose deploying the Idaho Army and National Guard for active combat operations outside the United States without Congress declaring war. So those things they oppose. However, they're in favor of using the Idaho National Guard to secure the nation's border due to the federal government's, quote, dereliction of duty. And they also want the right of the state to remove any and all people unlawfully present within Idaho's borders. 2 other things stood out from the weekend when it comes to the platform. Defining human personhood, they oppose abortion of any kind, but they added actions which intentionally end an innocent human life, including destruction of human embryos. In the process of in vitro fertilization, sometimes extra embryos are frozen for future use, but those unused frozen embryos can sometimes be destroyed after, a set amount of time. Well, a bill to stop that would certainly impact infertility clinics in the state, and that's possible. The other would add language to the GOP education and economy planks, saying, while we strongly support Veltex education, Idaho Republicans will no longer support taxpayer funding for educational programs beyond high school. So that would put Governor Brad Little's successful Idaho Launch program in the crosshairs, right? The one that offers up to $8,000 in grants toward tuition and fees, and the one with nearly 13,000 applicants this past filing period, which ended about a couple months ago. So the big question is, the vague wording of that amended plank, does that mean the end for funding for higher education in general? If a lawmaker votes to support Idaho Launch next session, or even a budget request from Boise State or the U of I, could they be found in violation of the platform and brought forth before a tribunal to answer for their crimes against the party? What this does give us a glimpse into is, well, what bills we can expect to see next legislative session. Who decides to follow it, that'll be another matter. It's a relationship that spanned generations. But now, after 64 years, the Brown Bus Company will no longer be taking kids to and from school for the Nampa School District. It's an end of an era for sure that has many school board trustees scratching their heads. Every 5 years, dating back to 1960, when the company was known as the North American Central School Bus Company, the district has renewed their deal with Brown. But this year, the bus company put forth an offer that was $2 million more than the district anticipated. Certainly a bust to their budget. Nampa Schools had a couple of options for them. Pay that new contract and then continue to make more cuts to the budget even after money problems had already pushed them to a 4-day school week. Or they could end that decades-long dependence and open it up to bids from other bus companies, more befitting their budget. As Aspen Shumpert found out, Brown still jumped into the pool, but they didn't make the splash the district was hoping to see.
Discussions continue on the future of bus transportation in Nampa School District. Their 5-year contract with Brown Bus Company is up on July 30th. They've bused with them for over 60 years, renewing contracts when time. During a contract renewal discussion in spring between the two, it was discovered the school district wouldn't be able to afford what a new contract with Brown Bus would cost. It was about $2 million more a year than they could afford.
The district had no way of being able to afford at that point, nor was the district in shape to make more cuts to make that contract.
Instead, they were forced to go to bid for a new transportation contract. The process takes 4 weeks, and bids were due June 10th. They received bids from 2 companies, Brown Bus Company and First Student. But when they got the bids back, something was wrong with the Brown Bus documents. They missed or didn't fill out a few sections, leaving the district unsure on what fixed costs would be and how much it would be for shuttles, which take students back and forth between schools for programs.
We do feel that we have a non-responsive bid due to the variables that were not included in the bid that allow us to accurately determine the actual value of the contract for bid number 2.
In a letter to the district, Brown Bus said their fixed costs were included in a different section on the spreadsheet, but the district still had questions. With only having one true qualified bid from First Student, the district's hands were tied again.
You don't put a fixed cost in a bid and say, let's talk about it later of what those costs might be. Yeah. That just doesn't sit with me.
They discussed reopening the bid process, which would take another 4 weeks, or accept the one bid they had with elements they asked for, and it came in under budget. They were also worried prolonging the decision even more could result in not having busing for the first day of school. Tuesday night, the board approved the bid from First Student for just over $7 million a year, which is saving the district about $1 million a year overall. I reached out to the school district today to learn what this change means and if anything will look different for transportation for the upcoming school year. They weren't available for an interview today, but did say more details would be shared at tomorrow night's school board meeting during their final budget hearing. Brian.
Okay, so after 64 years, what did the Brown Bus Company have to say about, outbidding themselves outside of that contract?
Yeah, I reached out to them too and asked, hey, what happened? And they said they weren't able to share any details at this point as well. So it's unknown for right now.
Okay, well, maybe we'll get some more details at the meetings tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, that's right.
Thanks, Aspen. Well, this week is Weezer's time to shine, as it is every year this time of year. Hundreds flocking to the farm town and play their fiddles and compete for a national title, possibly. Morgan Romero tells us how you can join in on that fun, plus some other 208 tidbits in today's 411.
A traffic alert for drivers out of Caldwell. Expect road construction on Middleton Road starting this week. Construction will start with lane closures and reduce speed limits until late July. Middleton Road will then be closed from late July to late October. This project will widen the road to 5 lanes and replace the intersection at Skyway Street with a roundabout. Good news at the pump. According to Gas Buddy, gas prices fell around 9 cents per gallon from last week. Boise's averaging about $3.54 per gallon, with the cheapest gas at $3.33 and the most expensive at $4.09. Statewide, the average price per gallon is $3.56. We've seen drops, with Boise prices being down almost 30 cents in just a month.
We basically ask any smaller contest throughout the country to send us their best fiddler.
Fiddlers throughout the country have taken to the town of Weezer for the annual National Old Time Fiddlers Contest and Festival. The Fiddle Festival kicked off today and it goes through this Saturday. The event takes over Weezer with the contest at the high school, festival at the park, and music throughout the campgrounds. That's your 411 on the 208. I'm Morgan Romero.
All right, here we are the day after Father's Day. And to celebrate, we're going to share some of your dad jokes. Like this one from Teresa in Boise. What did one rock say to the other? I get sentimental over you. When is a door not a door? This one from Lori. When it's ajar. Okay, we got to do better than this. All right, how about this one from Brian in Star? What hand do you cut steak with? Neither. You use a knife. Tim in Boise must have watched our stories on cannibalism, Bill, because he said, why don't cannibals eat clowns? Because they taste funny. And finally, thank God, I went to the paint store to get thinner. It didn't work. Happy Father's Day. Maybe you noticed there have been a lot of changes happening in downtown Boise when it comes to buildings. Some have come down, like the old Idaho Sporting Goods store to make room for the new downtown YMCA. Others are going up, way up, like the new 26-story Arthur building working its way to be Idaho's tallest building. Speaking of 26, it was that many years ago when downtown lost a piece of its history with the sale of the Veltex service station, which is on the corner of 5th and Main. And for those new to the area, you've likely seen the circular orange sign out there with the blue V still out front of that building that for years, up to 1998, lit up that corner of downtown Boise. John Miller takes us back to June of 1998 when the old Veltex building was being sold, opening up the door for what's there today and, of course, several complaints from those who didn't want to see it go in the first place. In today's 208 Redial.
For as long as anyone can remember, the Veltex sign has been something of a beacon in downtown Boise.
Well, I keep it lit 24 hours a day.
But after nearly 30 years, Dick Bengachia is about to turn it off.
Surely you're getting people saying, Nick, you can't sell the place. It's a piece of history. It's the corner. It's 5th and Main.
In fact, this is a museum.
It's a monument.
A monument to the phrase, they don't build them like they used to. But to Dick Bengachia,
It's just old.
and
Okay.
it's falling apart.
Oh.
Still, it's full of pieces and pictures of the past. You don't have to ask passersby how they feel about its demolition, and just ask Eric Cordy.
It's a landmark, huh?
They're going to tear the thing down, and it's going to be gone. And then what are we going to do? We're not going to have a Veltex. And Veltex stands for velvet texture. You can't see on TV. They're going to tear it down.
This is Dick's wife, Marcia.
I'm the brains and he's the brawn.
Boy, he's got a lot of cleaning to do, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Well, she wants a cash register.
Some other guy wants this sign.
He wants the sign, but we can't take it off.
So you have to sell him the whole door?
He's going to take the whole door.
Which is just fine with the Bengachias. Still, though it's old and rusty and hasn't been open for almost 8 years, it's a sad departure.
Yes, I'm sorry to see it go. But it's time to quit. We're getting old.
And like their old building and that old beacon, it's time to be moving on. John Miller, Idaho's News Channel 7.
Well, Eric was not happy about it, was he? Well, that would be the end of an era in downtown Boise for sure. Gas station that stood on that corner since at least the 1910s, and well, that would be the end of the Veltex era in Boise as well. The last such station under the Boise-based Fletcher Oil Company. At one point, there were more than 100 Veltex stations across Idaho and the Northwest. That one had just been sitting there and being used as a parking lot since 1991. They didn't service any cars, they didn't sell any gas. So back then, Dick Bengoechea, as you just heard, knew it was going to be replaced by a 4-story multi-use building. He just wasn't sure what they were going to do with that well-known neon sign. When it was demolished, well, that would be a few years after that, the old service station 3 years later in October of 2001, we did learn the sign was going to be salvaged. You can see it there. It was safely secured to be used later after the new building was completed. And then when they opened up that new building, they planted that sign right back out front, right on the corner. After coming to terms with the city about parking, Bill Clark with Clark Development held a grand opening of the new Veltex building on the corner of 5th and Main. That was January 2004. Had living spaces on top, commercial use for the lower floors. And here we are 20 years later, and the fence around the building tells you it is going through another change. Nothing structural, at least major construction, just changing who is taking over the bottom floor. They're making room for Graber and Company, who has spent a long time on 9th Street, and they'll soon be offering their salon services on 5th Street. There'll also be a room, for coffee and a wine bar there at the new, or continuing to be the Veltex building. So not major changes, but still a few more changes for the corner of 5th and Main. Oh, did you think we were finished with the dad jokes? No, here's some more in honor of Father's Day. Jeff in Boise, I was wondering why the Frisbee kept getting bigger and bigger, then it hit me. Ugh. This one from Rod in Boise. Did you hear about the butcher who fell backwards into his meat grinder? He got a little behind in his work. Okay, that's kind of good. Tammy in Meridian's pretty bad, though. What day is it? It's Sunday. Unless it's raining, then it's a rainy day. Ugh. Again, happy Father's Day.
And the next day was chilly. In fact, here are the low temperatures as a start up this morning. Boise was down to 45, but if you look in the mountains, most of the lows were in the 30s. Twin Falls had 41 degrees. So we haven't had 40s in a long time. We saw a few 50s, but low temperatures in the 40s. I think the big deal today, though, are the wind gusts, even though we did have showers around the area. But you can see Boise with 24-mile-an-hour wind gusts, Twin Falls 32-mile-an-hour wind gusts. These are the current wind gusts now, so it's still blowing outside. Peak wind gusts, Boise had a 37-mile-an-hour wind gust. Many of the valley locations was anywhere from 30 to 36. Twin Falls today, 47 miles an hour. Happened just a little bit earlier, but they had some strong winds throughout the area there. Now, this is the temperatures from yesterday. We're 13 degrees below what we had yesterday at this time. Just kind of illustrates how far those temperatures had dropped. You can see Twin Falls, Mountain Home, as well as Ontario. So let's take a look at the winds for tomorrow. Not quite as gusty. Today we had winds over 30 miles an hour. You can see for tomorrow, starting out very light in the morning and even in the afternoon, this isn't too bad. These are the gusts. So likelihood between about 5 to 10 miles an hour. So the winds really do improve for tomorrow. Everything improves for tomorrow. This is the high temperature for today at 60. See many of the temperatures in the lower 60s, only in the 50s over here in Twin Falls, and many spots in the mountains only got up into the 40s for high temperatures, all because of this. You can see the showers that are moving through here from the northwest. Some of these little yellow spots are the potential of an isolated thunderstorm. And even earlier today, I only caught one. There could have been more than that, but there was one out here moving right in this particular area. So it was just east of Homedale where there was only one lightning strike, but there's still some of those scattered showers and this northwesterly flow, just very cold. So we're keeping those temperatures down. And when you look at this, it starts to break off here in southern Washington. So this will break off overnight, but we'll still have the gusty winds this evening up until probably about 10 o'clock. And then a shower is still possible at that time too, or even an isolated thunderstorm, but it changes quickly as you get up tomorrow morning. Now you notice that even around the Magic Valley, most of the lows will be very chilly, and the daytime highs will be getting into the mid to the upper 60s, so it is warming up. It's going to be a sunny day. I think tomorrow is going to be a very nice day. As you look at this, even in the mountains, high temperatures into the 50s. Valley locations had temperatures in the upper 50s to right around 60 degrees. So here's a look at what we're seeing tomorrow. West end of the valley will have temperatures in the lower 70s, anywhere from a 75 in Ontario to about 73, 74 for Boise. So it's going to warm up 10 to 15 degrees, actually. Winds will be lighter, and it's going to be basically a sunny day. So I think it's one of those days, if you want to get outside, go for a walk, do anything that you want to do out there, it's going to be rather nice. 7-day forecast, 73 for tomorrow. And here's the big change that's taking place. Wednesday's 84, another nice day. We're not looking at a lot of wind. Remember, when I said the temperatures go up, winds die down. When the temperatures go down, that's where we pick up the winds like we had today. So if you look through Friday, there's a 92, and Saturday and Sunday, these temperatures are really up there. Look at that. I mean, we're getting close to the triple digits by the weekend.
Oh, there's more. And these are so stale, we might as well share them a day after Father's Day. My dad passed away last year, Bobby in Boise said. He was the king of dad, a.k.a. corny jokes. After he passed, I picked up the baton and sent daily dad jokes that I find online to my 4 siblings. Here's a sample, a few of the recent ones. I have a friend who was always late to everything until his doctor recommended sleeping in an herb garden. Now, he always wakes up on time. And why do golfers love donuts? Because there's always a hole in one. Good one. Rick should have said this one in his forecast. You know it's hot outside when cows are producing evaporated milk. That's it. That's all she wrote. Thank God. Let's get right to your comments today. Larry, I believe commenting on the fact that the Nampa School District is having to, well, they couldn't afford to pay the $2 million extra for their bus contract. What happened? I remember our governor touting how Idaho was the most flush money state in the country just after the election. Where did it go? That's Larry on the bench. The governor, I should say, did pledge $2 billion over the next 10 years, but we've talked to several school districts, and when you kind of parse that out over 10 years, it's not a lot considering, well, there's so many school districts across the state, and they need that money right now. I guess the Republican Party is not the big tent party here anymore. The rest of us are going to have to deal with more of the party telling us how and what the rest of us are allowed to do. Good going, GOP. Let's go to the next one here. This one from Chuck in Boise. GOP delegates and Dorothy Moon want our representatives to be accountable to them, not voters. Pretty disgusting in a democracy, says Chuck. Moon will drive the Republican Party into the ground. Sad what my GOP has become, says Tam. Well, touting this as a grassroots effort, because as we elect precinct committeemen in those primaries, they're the ones that choose leadership for the party, and this is kind of where we are today. We talked about this a couple of times, so this is kind of how this works. And you got to make the changes at the ballot box if you're not happy with it. Under the Moon regime, it appears one does as they are told, or else Idaho GOP, as I have known for my entire life, is gone. Soon it will be called the Idaho Birch Libertarian Party. Okay, I'm only going to allow 3 of these dad jokes to end the show. 2 peanuts are walking through an alley. One was assaulted. Why don't pirates play cards? Because someone's always standing on the deck. And yes, they're fully grown when they make you groan.